One of the most tragic stories in Tamriel is that of what happened to the infamous Snow Elves. A once majestic and wealthy and prosperous race have been turned into the deformed and feral creatures we know today as the Falmer. Today we're going over the rise and fall of the Snow Elves and how they became what we know now as the Betrayed. This is part 3 to our new series Elder Scrolls Lore Stories, so if you're ready to learn about the Snow Elves, stay tuned because we're jumping right into the video. To learn about the Snow Elves, we'd have to go back almost 4,000 years ago to the end of the Merethic era. The Snow Elves, also known as Ancient Falmer or Ice Elves, were a very proud, wealthy, and prosperous race of elves that inhabited much of the cold and rocky regions of Skyrim and northern High Rock. What we do know about the Snow Elves is their society was a rich, wealthy, and prosperous one with increased abilities in magical arts. People have even said that the Snow Elves society rivaled that of their distant cousins, the Altmer of the Somerset Isles. They developed their own complex language and only a few people in Tamriel today can decipher. They've grown an immunity to cold and frost and also greatly worship their deity Ariel, oftentimes carrying with them the paramount desire to become one with their god. This is seen as every temple and palace that was found being owned by the Snow Elves contained a shrine to Ariel, as well as the Chantry of Ariel, which became the epicenter of the Snow Elf religion. Many Snow Elves tirelessly devoted themselves to the tireless journey through the massive Chantry, who desired the blessing of Ariel, who once completing the journey through the Chantry would receive immortality past death. Only a handful were successful in this journey, granted the gift of immortality by Ariel themselves, and also became the guardians of each of the way shrines of the Chantry, which is located in the Forgotten Vale, which includes 2 elves which are said to be some of the last living Snow Elves that we actually get to meet, one of which being Knight Pelangelabor and Archcurate Verthur. Gelabor is the guardian of the Chantry, where his brother Archcurate Verthur, who you meet at the end of these trials, was corrupted with vampirism and has sought for many centuries to seek revenge on Ariel for allowing the downfall of the Snow Elves to occur. At the end of the Merethic era, the Atmoran Nords started to make their arrival to Skyrim, creating several smaller civilizations throughout the northern regions of the territory. It is unknown when the conflict between the Snow Elves and the Nords occurred. However, the earliest human settlements in Tamriel dated back to ME 800 to 1000, and it suggests the relationship remained relatively harmonious for quite some time. That is, until one night when the Snow Elves attacked the greatly growing settlement of Nords known as Sarthol. Why the elves attacked the settlement is unknown, disputing motives such as fear, religious, military proclamations, territorial disputes, and a desire to possess the ancient power the humans uncovered in Sarthol known as the Eye of Magnus. Regardless of the reason, the elves attacked the human capital of Sarthol and razed it to the ground, killing nearly everybody in the settlement. This incident would soon become known as the Night of Tears. The only known survivors were the Atmoran-born ruler Ysgramor, as well as his 2 sons, Ingol and Ilgar. They fled to Atmora only to return with a vengeance. They later came back with an army known as Ysgramor's 500 companions and eventually wiped out all the elves that they came across, clearing the way for more settlers to come in their wake. After wiping out the organized elven resistances in Skyrim, the Nordic armies then sought their enemy out on the island of Solstheim. The elves made a last stand in the Battle of the Moose Ring. After an intense battle, their leader, the Snow Prince, was killed and the elves were defeated. Age of the Snow Elves was no more. Though they steadily lost ground, the Snow Elves had firmly entrenched themselves in Skyrim. They persevered into the early centuries of the First Era, when the Chantry of Ariel was made. It was not until the reign of High King Harold in 1E143 to 221 that the elves were believed had been driven out past the present borders of Skyrim. It is also rumored that in The Ship of Ice, the Nordic sailor tale recounted the freezing of Atmora and the last ship that left, Gilgerfic. In the story, a Snow Elf child approached the sailors in the port. Unfazed by the freezing cold, she delivered a message about the consequences of their actions, stating that while they had destroyed her homeland with their weapons, the Frostfall had now claimed theirs. She urged them to look upon the frozen shores of Atmora one last time and recognize that this was the result of the choices made by their forefathers. The Snow Elves had long maintained an uneasy alliance with the other group of Mer that inhabited Skyrim, also known as the Dwemer. Once the Nords established their supremacy in Skyrim and defeated their Snow Prince on Solstheim, the Snow Elves turned to their underground brethren for help. The Dwemer did agree to offer them safe haven, but forced their wards into solitude, only allowing them to consume toxic fungi, which eventually rendered the Snow Elves blind. Over time, these servants became slaves. Ancient torture chambers found in Dwemer ruins are suspected to have been used to keep these elven brethren in line. While the Snow Elves are believed to have been rendered blind by the Dromeri toxin, it's unknown whether it was this or some other tragedy that twisted the betrayed into the primitive creatures which have terrorized the Nords for millennia, which we know today as the Falmer. Some Snow Elves did manage to avoid becoming slaves to the Dwemer, instead retreating to hidden shrines or hiding with sympathetic families. Over 100 Snow Elves were hidden at the Chantry when Dwemer sent threats of a Falmer attack. By the time news had reached them, they were too late to stop it. The few remaining Snow Elves looked upon their twisted brethren with pity. However, the sentiments were not shared by the Falmer, as the betrayed attacked their untainted cousins with the same ferocity they displayed towards the other surface races. Over the centuries, Snow Elves fell into legend. Many of the people of Tamriel today believe the Snow Elves to be extinct, near-forgotten Nord legends. Traces of Snow Elves may be present in present-day Myr, as it is suspected that they interbred with other elves before they ceased to exist as an unidentifiable culture. The Skald believe that Rieklings of Solstheim are descendants of the Snow Elves, although scholars argued that they are simply snow goblins. Some legends claim Wisp Mothers are the last remnants of Snow Elves, which is supported by their behavior and tapered ears. Legends say that one of the reasons Snow Elves met their fall was due to the god of luck, Sai, who brought luck to Skyrim for the Nords, neglecting the Snow Elves. By the Fourth Era, what was superstition had become more or less common knowledge. Increased activity of the underground Falmer was increasingly difficult to dismiss. It is thought their activity is related to a planned invasion of the surface world since the Dwemer is no longer around. Other elves of Tamriel are repulsed by the idea that these Falmer were once Myr like themselves, and even wonder whether these monsters are truly all that remain of the legendary Snow Elves. There are only a few select civilizations of Snow Elves that do exist to this day. However, they are in remote locations far from eyesight to avoid any chance of being invaded by their fallen betrayed brethren or by humans. As of the Fourth Era, there is also an increase in activity from the underground Falmer, so the question stands, could we be looking at a future uprising of the Falmer and them coming back to the surface of Tamriel? And with that being said, we're at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this Elder Scrolls lore story on the Snow Elves. Post your opinion in the comments about whether you think the Falmer could potentially make an uprising back to the surface of Tamriel. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more future gaming and Skyrim related videos. Hopefully I'll get to see y'all in the next video. Until then, y'all have safe travels throughout Tamriel.